All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Kathy, Christine, and Rachel, I would love to know who we have on the call, and where you're coming from, the animal shelter that you're with, and what are your biggest observations or challenges when it comes to your community with veteran or military pet parents coming to you either for adoption or for relinquishment. So I'll give a quick second. You don't need to come on video if you don't want to. But Kathy, you're first. I was hoping you could come off mute maybe and just do a quick introduction of yourself. I'm not hearing Kathy. I do see that you're trying to be off mute. I can almost hear you, Kathy, or I can hear somebody. I don't know if it's Kathy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. My name's Kathy Schrenkel. I'm a volunteer and one of the council members for the Fort Leavenworth Stray Facility. We are a very small shelter, and we only accept cats and dogs that have been found, relinquished, or seized on Fort Leavenworth. We don't take animals from the outlying areas. And probably one of our biggest problems is the lack of garrison oversight for dealing with stray animals.
Yeah.
So that's really our biggest. We do have a lot of relinquishments. We don't ask for angel donations. We don't ask for angel adoptions. We ask for angel relinquishments because we oftentimes have young enlisted folks who have gotten orders to go overseas and they can't afford to take their animals with them. And so the relinquishment, being an angel relinquishment, is a much better situation for these younger folks.
Yeah, definitely. Could you explain what an angel relinquishment is? Just I think I actually don't know if I've ever heard that term.
So we are part of MWR. MWR does not want us to accept monetary donations.
Got it.
So if we say that we accept a donation in the name of a relinquishment, then a relinquishment then is paid for somebody in the future.
Got it. That makes sense.
So again, we want people to be able to afford the adoption because that means they can afford the care for the animal. They can afford the medical care, the food, the boarding, and all those kinds of things. But a relinquishment usually occurs because they got a really cute puppy or a really cute kitten and they didn't have a clue as to how much it was going to cost, especially with moving.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I know you probably have the most amount of military in your clientele since you are with MWR. For those that are joining in, the military has a couple of civilian-led adjacent programs, and some bases do have animal services on the base, either in terms of an animal shelter, which I don't think there's many animal shelters that are part of a military chain of command or MWR. I feel like there's might be one in another one in Texas in like Fort
Oh
Hood
no,
area.
there's actually a good number. Fort
They're
Riley, Fort Belvoir, Fort Hood, Fort
usually on army bases.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bases are heavily with a stray facility. Sometimes they are associated with a veterinary clinic that's on a
right,
post,
right.
but in our case, we are a separate entity. Um, we don't have really anything to do with the VTF, the veterinary treatment facility on our installation, they do not want to deal with strays at all.
Right, right. Well, that is great information. We'll definitely talk on some of the programs and things that we're trying to provide to prevent that relinquishment aspect. But we'll continue on with introductions. The next on my list is Christine. Was hoping that you could also come off mute and introduce yourself so we know where you're coming from and what the biggest problem you're having with particular military and pet parents.
Hi guys, can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name's Christine Malnassi. I am the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at Sheltering Hands Incorporated in Ocala, Florida. We're a 501(c)(3) low-cost spay neuter clinic and shelter for cats. Currently, we have a little under 300 cats in our care between our shelter and fosters. We are about an hour and a half from any military installations, so I would say the greatest challenge that we face is making the general public aware of resources that are available in our area for actively serving military and veterans.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. The next person I have on my list is the NSPCA. I think that's Norfolk.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
I had people in my office, so I just booted them out.
No worries.
But I need you to rehash what you need. I heard
Oh,
my
just
name, so
introduce yourself, where you're calling from, what shelter you're with, and what the biggest problem that you're facing when it comes to military or veteran pet parents.
okay. So I'm from the Norfolk SPCA, and we have a high volume of surrenders. We don't take all of them. We do direct them to the city shelter if we're full, but of course the city shelter is often full also.
Right. Right.
So we ran into something very recently, which is how I ended up getting invited to this call, is we had somebody adopt an animal from us and then a very short time later get orders to Japan, and they already had two dogs, which is the max that they can take with them to Japan. So they ended up returning the dog because even though like it wasn't for a while, they didn't want to get like super attached to it and have it like integrate into their family and then have to surrender it when it was time to go. Um, so we didn't realize that some of these resources like could have worked for them in that moment, and we would have liked to recommend that to them, but we didn't realize.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a big point. I just made a note to kind of hit that more through this call because that wasn't necessarily on my agenda. But like as a shelter, making sure that your adoption coordinator understands particularly how to ask military parents or potential adopters like where they're going next, because helping knowing that could flag some of those potential problems. Like, do you have the potential of being stationed overseas, or do you have to live on base? Because if you have to live on base, you have certain pet restrictions. So we'll talk about that more.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. We definitely have, obviously Fort Leavenworth as well, but like Norfolk is another huge area for us. So glad to meet you. The next person I have on my list is Chelsea Lopez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Chelsea.
Yes, ma'am. I just got to this call. I'm sorry, I missed. We doing introductions?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, just introductions, who you are, where you're calling from, and what the biggest challenge you're facing with military veteran pet parents.
So I am with Animal Care Services of San Antonio.
Okay.
I work on the clinic side, so the medical side. And right now I'm not big on the placement side, but I definitely wanted to join this call to see if there's a way that we could help as a shelter.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. I also have Catherine R on the iPhone.
Hey everybody. So yes, I misspelled my name many years ago when creating my iPhone and have never fixed it. I also work at San Antonio Animal Care Services. I manage our intake division. So we do get quite a few rehoming requests from our residents who are military based or going on to deployment. And so, yeah, we're just looking at how can we better support the rehoming of these pets so that they have options that are not just the shelter. What can we do proactively to try to help these pets move into a more stable setting than the shelter setting is? So, kind of, I'm hoping to see if there's any alternatives for that, for rehoming or fostering or anything like that.
Yeah, that is another great thing to point out. And I do have a resource that I recently connected with. They're actually a for-profit rehoming service. And I'll share their information during this call and after the call as well, because it could be it's called Joyful Pets or Rehome with Love.
Okay.
So that could be an option to put in your guys's everyone's toolkit basically.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And I love that you haven't changed your name because that's just one step that we don't need to
I was
do.
like, there are more important things in this world.
It's funny. Okay, and then the next person I have is Rachel, which I know Rachel was chatting.
Yes, so Rachel was in the chat. She just mentioned that she's not going to have audio or video,
Perfect.
unfortunately, but she's also from the Norfolk Animal Care Center in Norfolk, Virginia.
Cool. Well, we definitely have some great locations represented today. So love that. And then real quick from our team, I want to introduce Veronica. She is one of our volunteers who has been our outreach coordinator, trying to find new shelters that don't yet know about us, providing them our information, and trying to get more people onto this call so that we can help provide the resources to help prevent those unnecessary pet relinquishments as best as we can. So thank you, Veronica, for your hard work here. We have one more person joining, so I'll let them in. Also on our team, we have Dana, who has been helping with our grants and also our customer service. So if you are emailing us or having an issue with a pet parent in the future, you may have some connection with Dana. So thank you, Dana, for being here. And then we also have Kylie, who is our marketing director. And so she is responsible for everything you see public facing for Dogs on Deployment, helping get the messaging out, and also building the tools and the resources for you guys to utilize in your shelters to help educate the parents that you have. We just had one more person join, Tina. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to come off mute and introduce yourself, curious to know who you are, where you're calling from, what animal shelter, and the biggest challenge that you guys have regarding military or veteran pet parents, if you'd like to share. Okay, I'll go ahead and continue. Tina, if you would like to share, please just drop it in the chat and we'll give an opportunity for you to share that information. So first, just want to say, thank you all for being here, taking the time to learn about Dogs on Deployment as well as our programs and how that we can, provide or teach you about our programs so that you are more prepared for handling military pet parents as they come in. So Dogs in Deployment, who are we? We have been around since 2011. The organization was founded by myself and my husband. I was in the Marine Corps. My husband was in the Navy. We had a very high energy Australian Shepherd JD, who was my soul dog. And I had to go to 6 months of military training while my husband had to simultaneously deploy. We were two officers. We thought we had plans in place. We never expected that we would be in this circumstance where neither one of us were able to care for our pet. And We were very lucky to have family that ended up stepping up and taking in our dog while I was in training. And that whole situation, though, inspired us to start Dogs in Employment because what we recognized was, no, we had the resources, we had family, or worst case scenario, if we had to, we could have paid for professional boarding. Although, of course, we all know how expensive that is. And what we saw was like, this is not a sustainable solution for people that don't have those resources, particularly junior enlisted or a married couple where we only have one working spouse. Oh, that's okay. Um, Great. Thank you, Tina, for being here. She just says that she's in Colorado, not a part of a rescue, and is received an invitation for being here. So glad to have you. Um, And when we when we did this drive, basically I had to move to the East Coast. We started this organization as a networking website. Literally, it was a contact us form that pet owners filled out, people that wanted to volunteer fill out, and they would connect through our network. Over the years, we have had several different versions of that network and that platform. And our current website is built around a community forum-based experience. So bringing in as many people that are interested in supporting this organization, mostly through the offering of boarding pets for free, and then connecting them with service members that are either active duty or veterans, honorably discharged veterans. Every pet parent is screened and approved within our application. We do not screen and we do not approve boarders. That is 100% on the pet parent's responsibility to do their research, their meet and greets, their interviews with the boarders in our network to determine who is a good fit with them. But we do screen all of our pet parents. So when as we kind of grew the organization over the years, we also started to find that there were other problems within the service communities that we wanted to build programs to support. And the biggest one, or the first one that I kind of noticed, was I wanted to adopt a second dog. And I was putting in pet applications or adoption applications to several shelters, and I kept getting denied because on my adoption paperwork, I would say I'm military, my husband's military, and I would never get a call back, or I would get like a denial email with the reason cited because I was in the service. And at first, this was like really frustrating because I was like, oh, I'm building a nonprofit to like solve this problem. But like, what it really did for me was flag how prevalent the problem is in the first place. And that is the baseline for where Operation Shelter Partners kind of came from, was how do we connect with animal shelters and provide them our resources so that way they have those. So the moment that a pet parent walks in that's either looking to adopt and or looking to relinquish, the animal shelter has knowledge about who we are and what we do so that we can best support pet parents and prevent unnecessary relinquishment of pets within the military community. So our programs, the biggest one being what we call our Hero Pet Boarding Network. This is the community forum, the online application, the place in which our volunteers, boarders connect with our pet parents. We've placed over 3,000 pets in our network. And once a service member has gone through the application process and has been approved, we have a pretty high 70%, if not more, connection rate with pet or with boarders. So it is a it is a reliable network for typical deployments, being anywhere from a few weeks to 6 months. Now, we also have pet parents that will come to us for longer periods of time, a year, if not more, depending on if they're going on an extended deployment, can be up to a year. Right now, we've seen deployment schedules that are all over the place due to what's going on in the Middle East, and deployments are being extended, which is causing a larger, impact and resource draw on dogs on deployment, as well as, animal shelters across the country that are in military communities. And those longer placements, while possible, are usually ones that are the unsuccessful ones, and that's where we recommend or work with pet parents to give them resources generally to rehome or find like another long-term solution for their pet. We do have volunteers that have boarded for like 2 years, but generally our volunteers are in the expectation of a few weeks to several months. So that's just an important kind of expectation to know going in. Um, Other programs that we have that are supportive to the military pet community, of course, Operation Shelter Partners, which is what we're all in right now. This is an education as well as an information distribution program, and attempting to create partnerships, which I'll talk about more, and how we can actually develop a partnership based on the resources that we've put on our website. Um, when you mentioned earlier that this family could only go to Japan with two dogs and they had adopted, I believe you said a third, and the cost is very expensive. This is a huge financial burden on military pet parents. Important for all animal shelters to know is that when a service member gets order overseas, they are financially responsible to ship that pet to their next duty station and to return it home. That pet shipping process looks like having to coordinate the airfare, the crate, as well as the vaccination and quarantine requirements for any island location. And the cost of pet travel, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, since the pandemic has gone up exponentially. I remember seeing people applying for or doing travel to Hawaii, for example, with an average size medium dog, and it would cost $1,500. That same trip now might be $3,000, if not more. So pet travel has become a huge burden and barrier for many pet families in keeping themselves together, which of course then puts more burden on the animal shelters. We do have a financial grant program established for helping with pet travel. However, in this current fundraising climate, it is our hardest one to fund. So currently that program is closed. However, whenever we get grants or sponsors or donors for that program, we will open it back up for short periods of time, give away as much money and support as we possibly can, and then attempt to refill it again. So it is there. However, right now, based on current finances, it is an unreliable program, but please keep it in your back pocket as a resource. Other financial programs that we have established is a veterinary assistance program. So helping with emergency surgeries, illnesses, any extreme medical costs. We do have a fund as well where we will give small grants to help offset the veterinary cost of for our military pet parents. The last one we have is called Operation Pet Wellness. This is our spay and neuter initiative, as well as vaccines and microchipping. And so we typically partner with low-cost spay neuter clinics and provide up to $150 to go towards the spay or neuter and vaccines microchips of a pet that has been recently adopted by a service member or a veteran. So I throw that out there also is because most of our low cost clinics are either um, are a nonprofit. We have a big partnership with a bus in San Diego. And we've worked with several other clinics and facilities and even other animal shelters that do spay neuter as a part of their program service revenue for providing these grants. So if your organization happens to have a low-cost spay neuter clinic, that is another way that we can strengthen our alliance together, is by helping fund the low-cost spay neuter whenever a eligible military pet parent comes in. So another thing I wanted to hit before I go too much away from that pet PCSing conversation and the pet restrictions. Um, when When a service member gets orders overseas, as I said, they are responsible for shipping the pet and the cost. However, there is a reimbursement that the military will give military families, and I believe it's up to 15 or 2,000. Kylie, if you remember, or Dana, if you remember off the top of your head, I think it's 15 or $2,000 for an overseas move, and then I believe it's $500 for a 2,000. Thank you, Kathy. For a US based move, a CONUS move, and that is up for one pet. So it is a good amount of support. So definitely utilize that as a resource. And then there's also the SPCAI, which has a, thank you for posting that, Kylie. There's an article in the chat that Kylie just posted that leads directly to the travel reimbursement. So that's another good resource to keep on you. But the oh gosh, just lost my train of thought. JTRs, and then the other thing is knowing animal restrictions and pet policies around your base. So if you live on a base, knowing what the pet policies are for your local base housing, because as an adoption coordinator would want to know if someone is the military, are they living on base? And if yes, do not adopt them a bully breed. Do not adopt them a large dog. Do not adopt them if they already have four animals, because they most likely will not be allowed to have another one. Most bases are limited to two animals. And some of them include a fish tank as an animal. So just being very cognizant of what the base housing pet policies are. And the way to find that would be to contact whoever is the contractor that manages the housing, whether that's Balfour Betty or Lincoln Military Housing, etc., contacting the housing office and asking for their pet policies. And I highly recommend keeping that in your intake folder as a resource for your adoption coordinators. Okay, the next thing I want to show, and I'm actually going to share my screen here for a second, is where do our resources live? So if you go to dogsunemployment.org, and across the top we have here partnerships, animal rescues, which is the page I'm currently on. We have this click here, download our guide. That's going to take us to the bottom of the page to download, and I'll show that to you in a second. We have what is Operation Shelter Partners. We always update our registration link. So if you ever want to attend again, or you want to have somebody else come over into the meeting, or if you're, leaving that animal shelter and you're doing turnover for somebody to replace you, making sure that you include this webinar link as a part of that turnover. It could be really helpful for your shelter to make sure that there's consistency in knowledge and nothing's being lost. And then down here, we have these 4 blocks, how your organization can help. And this is how we consider a shelter going from you've been in this call to actually being considered a partner. So the first thing is displaying rat cards or flyers at your intake counter. We have a free flyer that you can click on, and this will download a printable flyer for your shelter, for your bulletin board to put in adoption packages um, if you ever need to, or if you ever adopt to a service member, you can print a flyer, you can give it to them. And then we also have rack cards that are available through our online store. Presently, we have spent all of our Operation Shelter Partners budget on sending rack cards out, but we hope to apply for more funding and have the ability to send more rack cards to more animal shelters. However, you can either request them from us if for whatever reason you guys don't have a budget that would allow you to purchase them yourself, or purchasing them yourself to put them in your animal shelter. It helps us out as well. So really just, how to get that information displayed in your animal shelter for the military pet parents to know about it at the time of adoption or before a relinquishment occurs. The second thing that we would ask is to put our website, our resource on your website. And so putting a page, if you have a resources page on your website, making something that says military veteran pet parents, and then linking dogs on deployment as a resource is a very useful way of providing this information, especially those that are in military communities. And you can, of course, download our logo right here. The next thing would be to add our quick reference guide to your staff resources. So this is another link to download. It's also down here. And I'll share with you what that resource guide looks like at the end, but it's a quick page to print out. Just put that in your adoption coordinator folder or binder is usually what we recommend. And the idea being, if a adoption coordinator has somebody standing in front of them looking to adopt a pet, the first thing, well, not the first thing, but one of the first things to ask is, are you military or veteran? And if yes, then refer to the quick reference guide for some additional information of how to support that pet parent at the time of adoption. If you have done those three things, we would love for you to say in an email to us. You can email Veronica, you can email me, OSP@Dogs on Deployment, and let us know. Yes, we got your flyer up. We have your website listed on our website, and we've printed that quick reference guide. What we would love to do is then take your logo, display it on our website here, and then also include your organization in our list of animal shelters that have committed to doing these three steps, which helps us when it goes to funding and trying to get more support for this organization so that we can do more outreach to more animal shelters that are impacted by military communities. The last thing we ask is going one step further, is that if any animal shelter currently collects data on military or veteran pet parents, we are very interested in knowing what that data is so that we can use it as a baseline for our case for support to get more additional funding for Operation Shelter Partners. We don't know what isn't reported, and I know a lot of animal shelters do not collect this information. But if you do, we would love to know how many pet parents you adopt to and how many pet parents have relinquished an animal to your shelter within, the last 12 months or so, so that we can show the impact and the need of this program. Final thing on here is Operation Shelter Partners in Action. If you have a military member that has come to your animal shelter and has used dogs on deployment to prevent that relinquishment, and you know about it, we also want to know about it. We want to share that impact story. We want to get all the good press that we possibly can, both in your local communities as well as our organizational communities. And who knows, if we could ever get a national news story, wouldn't that be great for all of us? So we're really interested in collecting the stories, success stories, and the ones that don't go so well, because those are equally as important to show impact. So please connect with Kylie, would be the main point of contact when it comes to any blog or stories, but you can email us at OSP with your story, and then we'll get that over to Kylie to either reach out for an additional interview, more information, or to post the story. The final thing up here was the downloading our guide. And I'm going to share a different screen. Share. Okay. Does everyone see the file, the PDF file? Okay. So here we have the quick reference guide. So it's what is it? It's a few, how many pages is it? I can't tell because I have too many windows open. It is 5 pages to include in your, again, adoption intake coordinator binder or folder. Just talks about who we are, what we do. Very important to know that Dogs in Employment serves all animals, including dogs, cats, birds, rabbits, ferrets, reptiles, and it's completely free for eligible pet parents. So that is, we have had success with guinea pigs, ferrets. I've had a snake before named Pedro. So just because we're dogs on employment does not mean we don't help all animals belonging to service members. And then in terms of it being a completely free program to use, for the boarding, it is free. Pet parents, however, are to remain financially responsible for their pet during the time of boarding, and a boarder cannot ask for a boarding fee, but they can ask for reimbursement for pet expenses like food or toys or grooming. So the most important thing that your team can do is asking, are you currently serving or are you a veteran? Asking before any relinquishment or even adoption paperwork is signed. So if this person says yes, understanding who qualifies. So Dogs in Employment primarily helps active duty service members of all branch, including the United States Coast Guard. You know, checking on that. If you're unsure, you can always ask to see a military ID. However, you cannot make a copy of that military ID. We also help Guard or Reserve, so National Guard members, and then veterans that have a minimum of 2 years of active duty service and were released in an honorable fashion or in good standing. And then in some cases, we also help the family members, spouses, or dependents of deployed service members in cases of emergencies. For example, we've had, spouses have a parent die while their service member is deployed, and they have to go someplace and they can't watch their pet for a short period of time. We have assisted in those kind of off cases, though primarily we serve active duty mostly. What to do when they say, yes, I am a military member. Go ahead and stop this intake process and refer them to Dogs in Employment. Have them complete an application before they have to relinquish their pet. Give their best all in that search, and then also feel free to contact us to let us know, give us a heads up. Again, this is something that would trigger us to see, like, if you have, Bill Smith come in and looking to relinquish an animal, you let us know, and then we see Bill Smith create an application on our website. We now know that this channel is working, and so that to us is a success worth reporting or having impact. I have a question here is, what is the average placement time? We typically get people surrendering within a week's notice of their deployment and would love to know the average turnaround. I would say for a application to be reviewed and approved, depending on that military member's initiative and how complete they are with their application, we can do within 2 business days. But if they need to give more information to us, it can take up to a week, and that is really on the pet parent's responsibility at that point. And then once they're in the network, that has the timing to find a boarder has a lot to do with where they're located, how many boarders we have in their area, as well as how engaged they are with attempting to connect with boarders themselves. The way the network works is it's a pull towards the pet parent. So once a pet parent has been approved, we take their pet, we post their pet in our network, and then that pet gets seen by all of our boarders. We also post them on our social media page, which gets seen. We have, about maybe 350,000 social media outreach, and it can take a week. It can take more than a week. So I don't have a really accurate or reliable number for that because it will depend on the dog's size, their compatibility with other animals. Do they have health issues? The cuter, the younger, the more affable the animal, the quicker they tend to go. But there are definitely cases that can be need specialized or very specific boarders. And so those can be a little bit harder to place as well. So in a case where you have somebody that's like leaving in a week, that could be really challenging. So this is also an option where, we can do our best to work with an animal shelter to understand an individual's need to come up with priority approval or priority boosting of that pet with that outreach from an animal shelter. Dana also reminds us that if they're not spayed or neutered or have current vaccinations, that can delay the process. We only accept animals that are spayed and neutered for cats and dogs. So that is a requirement to be a part of our organization. Great, Rachel. Thank you so much for that question. So I also come in here, what happens after they apply. A process can take 1 to 2 weeks, and boarding periods can range from days to 2 years for overseas assignments. I have a quick list of all of our programs that I went through. So Hero Pet Boarding Network, Veterinary Assistance Program, Operation Pet Wellness, and Pet PCS, which is all the things that we previously discussed. The 3 steps on how to become an official partner. So ordering rat cards or downloading that free flyer, adding this quick reference guide to your resources, and linking Dogs in Employment on your website with our logo. And once you've done all of that, please email us and let us know so that we can list you as an official partner and send your logo. And then one step further, as I said before, was doing a report to us. Here I have some resources for you. Applying for boarding, everybody can go to dogsandemployment.org. We have our animal shelter rescue page, where to order rat cards, where to get the free flyer, where to get our logo. If you ever need to schedule a call with me one-on-one, you can do so here. That is available to you. And we have our OSP, our Operation Shelter Partners email address, as well as the info. And the final part of this is a report. So if you would feel so inclined to give us additional information of the last 12 months of your guys' reporting, here are some questions that we have asking about reasons for relinquishment, how many military or pet adoptions, and any additional notes that you might be interested in sharing with us. So with that concludes the overview of Operation Shelter Partners, and we are also at our time. So if you have no further questions, I thank you for being here and taking the initiative to learn about Dogs in Employment, how to support military pet parents in your communities. And if you do have additional questions, I will stick here until all of those questions are answered, and you can come off mute if you'd like for a conversation. Okay, with no one dropping any cute questions or coming off, I'm going to assume that we're all aligned. So please, if you would like to join officially, yes, I love it. How to become a boarder, dogsemployment.org, and then it would be clicking on sign up and DoD border, and there is a short application link to join. And that's another thing too. If you would like to share with your foster networks to allow people to be in our network as well, love that. But I also, respect that foster networks are a huge resource for animal shelters, and so by no means is that a part of our program, but definitely something that you can share with your communities to get more people signed up as boarders. As well as if you ever had an animal that somebody wanted to relinquish to your shelter, but let's say you had a foster parent in your community or in your foster network that was willing to foster them, instead of going through just them internally, you could have that foster parent join as a boarder and then have that pet parent join as a pet owner. They can connect through our network. We give them additional resources. We have a very large, what we call a boarding and care plan, which is like a 20-page agreement basically that goes through all the things that we have learned over the past 15 years that pet parents should share with their boarder regarding the care for their pet. And it puts them into a legal agreement between the pet parent and the boarder. And then we would also be able to assist if they've gone through our organization. So that's something that is available as an option as well. Okay, if I have no others, I am going to end this call here in a second. And Kylie will be taking this video. We will post it on our YouTube channel and send out the transcript as well for anybody that would like to share this information with your team. And I think I heard one person come off mute. So if you had a question, I'm here.
Yeah, Alisa, this is Tina. I figured
Hi.
out how to get myself off of mute.
Great. Hi.
So I have a quick question. I received, and I even learned about you at a former pet expo, but as well as I get a lot of um, information on my Facebook feed.
Yeah.
But the other thing I also get are a lot of different shelters around the country. Specifically, California has a big problem, Texas, Florida, Georgia, you name it. And I wonder, I see a lot of shepherds, I see a lot of Malinois at some of these huskies, and I'm kind of wondering, does dogs on deployment canvass some of these areas, or maybe look through what dogs are maybe up for euthanasia and maybe send some information out to kind of preempt these euthanasias and let those shelters know there is this opportunity if these people relinquishing their pets are in fact in the military. I just thought maybe it was an idea because I just breaks my heart to see how many are being put down
Yeah.
daily almost.
Yeah, so Veronica, our volunteer on this call, that's kind of where what we attempt to do is looking at where's the military bases and then what are all the animal shelters around that military base and have we connected with them within the last 12 months, sending them an email, sending them an invitation to join one of these quarterly calls, sending them our website with that quick reference guide that I just shared, trying to get them that information. So yes, based on our volunteers and how we have our community, initiatives, that is, whenever we have somebody that's interested in volunteering, I was just talking to Kylie earlier that like, you should send them an email and say, if you are in a location, wherever it is, contact 10 animal shelters and give them our flyer. Start that everywhere. Boots on the ground is what we call them, are very important to us. So unfortunately, we don't have the resources to like be looking at euthanasia lists or anything. But Kylie also does a great job. Yeah, I was just gonna she just posted here that if we ever see anything on social media about a military member, that is a cue for us to immediately contact that animal shelter and be like, hey, have they already surrendered the pet? Is there any way to get back in contact with the pet owner to see if they could utilize dogs in employment instead, if they didn't know about us at the time of relinquishment, and trying to get that dog out of the shelter back to the pet owner and into a border instead. So
Oh, very nice.
we do our best.
Very nice. Are you opposed to, I don't know, I just can see, I know Riverside is a big one in
Yeah.
California. If I were to send them a flyer just to say, hey,
Oh,
prior
absolutely.
to,
Please.
okay,
Yes,
okay,
please. That's exactly what we hope.
okay. Yeah, I'm just an ordinary citizen. I've never been in the military. I just love animals. And when I see those feeds coming through, I like, what can I do to help
Right.
in all these situations? So thank you for what you're doing.
Of course. Thank you so much. And if there's any other kind of volunteer, opportunities that you're kind of seeking, would love to speak with you offline as well. You can contact us, me, Alisa at dogsonemployment.org, and be happy to kind of, dig more into what problems you're looking to solve and if there's ways that we could align.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, really appreciate everyone's time and care to this. There is another volunteer town hall on Thursday at 4 p.m. If anyone is interested in learning about volunteer opportunities within the organization, to find that link, you would go to our website and click on volunteer virtual. And I just posted it in the chat as well, and there is a register for a town hall. And again, that's Thursday the 13th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. I hope to see you guys as Operation Shelter partners, and maybe talk to you next town hall, which will be November 10th. I'm going to stop the recording.